Everybody asks, like, how do you market it? It's like, we don't. It's just we market the results and that it's personal training and it's something individualized. It's not the coach's job or even the programmer's job to come up with something unique every single time. It's to put the right tool in front of the person that's training to make sure it's appropriate for their goal and appropriate for how they move and their lifestyle. Where personal training studios struggle is, what are the clients supposed to do on the days that they don't come see you? Don't remove yourself from the stuff that you actually really, really enjoy doing just because someone else said that should be the goal.
Hello and welcome to this week's Gym World Worldwide, coming in live from, where are we? Red Bank, New Jersey, with the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Bott, making his, is this your second or third appearance on the pod?
Second.
Yeah, this is number two. And this was, you're now the fourth live guest, and two of the four appearances have been in person with you.
Perfect.
So tell us about your gym for people who didn't listen to every single episode. What is Aspire Fitness? What do you guys do?
So the high level view is that we're a personal training facility. So we do offer group classes, but a majority of our clients are coming in looking for a more customized, individualized experience. So all of our members meet with a coach ahead of time, go through an analysis, go through their goals, injury history, all that important stuff. And then they have their own program written out for them. So then it's up to them to decide how many times they might want to work with a coach from there. So they can work with a coach anywhere from 1 to 3 times, 4 times a week. But it's always on their program. So we try to do everything the way I describe it to other gym owners, is that we make it client-centric. So there's no one belongs to any one coach. They're all members or clients of the gym. They work with a team of coaches. And we really try to eliminate any of the friction that other personal training-centric gyms or gyms that house personal training inside of them struggle with. So we're a client-centric, results-based fitness facility. We have, our original facility was in Colts Neck, New Jersey. We opened in 2015, and then we purchased a second gym right at the end of COVID. So it's just been about 3 years now in Rumson, New Jersey. So that's the high level view of it.
So I come to you, I say, hey, I want to fill out this shirt a little more, maybe get some arms, and you start every client with a program, right? And then based off of that, I can choose how many times I do it at home versus in your gym, and that will impact the pricing.
Yeah, and most of our clients won't do it at home. So which is certainly an option. So most of our clients we do offer quote unquote open gym in our facilities, but it's never just come in and do whatever you want, right? We tell people, listen, you're hiring us for a result. But so we wouldn't want you just coming in and doing any sort of exercises you want on your own. That program's written out based on what you're looking for. So yes, you'd come in, we do an evaluation, we write you out a program. But a lot of our members have varying levels of experience with fitness. So we really try to break down, like, what is it that you value or that you need from us? Do you need me teaching you how to work out and how to move? Well, then they probably work with a coach every time that they come in if they have no experience, or they know without an appointment, I'm not showing up. There's other people that are like, hey, I know you get great results. My schedule's kind of crazy. I really just want to make sure that I have something that I know can follow and that will work. They might choose one of our lesser memberships where it might be only one session a week. And when they get their program, they come in, they review it with the coach, and then they do their other workouts on their own. So we do have a couple clients that might sporadically add a workout in at home, but for the most part, we try to get all of their visits to be in the gym, whether it's coached at a certain time with an actual trainer, or if they're coming in on their own, they come in, they grab their program, we keep them all in the front of both gyms, and then they just start working on it from there.
I know how many members you have, but maybe you share with the audience, because it sounds awful to manage that many individual programs.
So in Rumson we have about 175, and in Colts Neck I think we have about 110. So we work from templates, right? So this is when I do any of the consulting for other gym owners that are looking to trying to either start offering, we didn't really talk about it, but semi-private training, which is 1 to 4 people per coach, all on individual programs. It's the first question I always get, like, how do you manage that programming? Well, a majority of our clients have the same goals. So we're not sitting down with a blank piece of paper every single time and mapping out, all right, this is where we're going to start for their warm-up, their strength training, et cetera. We work from templates. So if someone was looking for, like you mentioned, trying to fill the sleeves out a little bit. So if you're looking for hypertrophy, we have hypertrophy templates that we work from. And then based on your injury history and how you move, we're just picking movements that fit into those slots. So we're not sitting there and trying to decide what type of squat someone should be doing every single time. We do their screening, we talk about their injury history, and then we just pick the one that's appropriate. So in our templates, you'll just see bilateral quad dominant movement. So those are our squat patterns. A beginner might be just doing a goblet squat. Someone who's more advanced might be going right to front squats or a safety squat, bar squat. So it saves us a lot of time. We should be able to get, if you have to do that many programs, our coaches can get, 4 or 5 done an hour pretty quick.
So you're doing about 300 individualized programs, a little less, like in that neighborhood. And then run me through how the pricing works, because that's probably something you get a lot with this flexible, I can come whenever I want.
Yeah, we do. Everything's based on a monthly access. So we never get into, hey, this is the price. We don't do like it's $75 a session and you're buying 10 sessions. Everything reverts back to the client's goal. So we would say, hey, listen, John, for something like that, we know at a minimum 3 months you're gonna need to put into your training and nutrition to kind of see those results, and then we look at it from there. So we have most of our members are on annual agreements. So we do annual or month to month, but everybody starts with at least 3 months. So when someone comes in and they're looking for a goal, we explain to them, listen, for that goal, we look at least a 3-month minimum commitment. That's where we get started. If you're ready to stick around long term, we have an annual agreement as well. So like I said, we don't really get a ton of objections to that. Most of our members will stay for an annual. And it can range anywhere from just doing 1 session a week with a coach in one of our facilities might be $299 a month, all the way up to $699 a month if you were going to train 4 times a week with a coach. So anywhere in between. Most of our members.
Well, there's only 2 more things in between, so give us the full breakdown. One is
80% of our members do twice a week with a coach.
Okay.
Which is $499 a month. So they will do that, and because most of our clients are super busy. So it's not necessarily the price that they have an objection to. They just don't want to waste it. So they'll say like, hey, when I'm home, I know I want to train 3 days a week. So although I said earlier, we don't do, hey, buy 5 or 10 sessions. As long as they have a membership, they can purchase additional sessions as add-ons. So any of our busy clients that want to train 3 or 4 times a week when they're home, but don't want to be paying for them if they're not around, they'll do a base membership of twice a week, which is $499. And then they can purchase 10 extra sessions, keep them on their account. If they're home, you use them. If you're not home, then they're there and they don't expire. But the way that we do it is when we do that twice a week model, they don't roll over. It's you're purchasing this program and it gives you access to up to 2 sessions per week. So that allows us to kind of stay on track that way. We're never getting to the end of someone's annual agreement and then saying, you have 72 sessions that you need to use. It's just like, hey, they know that they have up to 2 sessions per week with a coach.
They don't bank.
They don't bank. Saying. We do work with the clients though. Like if you're away for a vacation for a week and you want to do 3 times a week the 2 weeks that you come back, that's totally cool. So as long as you have a membership, we're flexible in working with you in that way.
So it's about slightly under 300 members at an average of about 500.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How is this different than all the guys who are opening up a bunch of smaller, small group training facilities, trying to open up, 7, 8 of them, that 1,200 square foot footprint, have one full-time person and a coach? Like, how is it different from that model for people who don't really understand the distinction between small group, semi-private?
So small group is still going to be, hey, it's usually a central programming, right? So if it's a franchise model, the franchise is going to put out, hey, here's the programming that we're using for the month, and then it's really just the coach's job just to progress or regress that individual person between every workout. So if you show up on Monday, here's what we're doing, and everybody's doing some variation of that workout, right? For us, it doesn't matter if you're on day 1 of your program and Sarah's been training with us for 3 years and she's on some completely different phase. If I have both of you guys Monday morning at 9 a.m., you're doing what you need to do, she's doing what she needs to do. It's my job or the coach's job just to stand back and coach you on what you have for the day. So you could have a very advanced person doing hang cleans and weighted chin-ups in the corner, and a new person who's never lifted before just learning how to kettlebell deadlift on the other side of the gym. We're not just saying, hey, today's deadlift day, so everybody's going to do this. There are pluses and minuses for us. We really like it in that it allows people to really be flexible about their schedule. You don't run into like, well, I missed Monday. Can I do that workout today? It's like, for us, it's like, yeah, whatever day you're on your sheet. We don't run into any log jams in terms of schedule or anything like that. And then our clients can stop and start whenever they need to. So we're never like in the middle of a phase where now someone who's new is coming in and it's like, all right, well, this is week 3 of this phase, so let's just get through that and then we'll start new on this week. It's if someone comes in and it's their day 1, then that's where they start.
So a lot of this requires programming knowledge and how to run this model. I know you consult with a lot of group training gyms who want to do this because they can keep their member count constant, increase the average ticket per member, and gyms like these can be more profitable, tend to be more profitable, especially if you're not someone who relies. You don't consider yourself a great marketer or sales guy. How do you approach the conversation of how to learn how to like program, how to do the templates, how to transition if all you've taught or done in your gym is large group training?
So if I'm understanding you correct, you mean like, so someone's running a large group model and they want to start implementing some of this into their personal training?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first step is that most gyms need to realize at that point is that they need to stop looking at personal training as a, hey, I'm going to teach you something for today and then we're going to move on, as and it's just another vehicle to actually deliver the results, right? If someone came in and said, hey, I'm getting married in 8 weeks and I need everything that you got to get me in the best shape that I can in 8 weeks, I don't think any experienced coach would be like, you should just take our group classes, right? Like if I need to deliver a specific result, a specific plan will always outperform that, assuming that the coaches are at the same level in which they would be in your own gym. So first and foremost is figuring out how do you make this an ongoing option for yourself. It's no longer, hey, you're struggling with double unders, let's meet for 30 minutes and I'll go over some drills that you can do. If that's what you're doing, that should still be done one-on-one and sell and market those as skill sessions. But the personal training is really about delivering an individual approach to the person. And I would say, just like if you were learning anything else, start with people that went before you. There's plenty of people that have great programs out there that we use, right? For our athletes, we use Mike Boyle's programs, right? We template them out. So if let's just say you bought a program and you looked at it and it said, hey, phase 1 is front squat and chin up. To us, that's just bilateral knee dominant and vertical pull. So then that's how you can create from other well-respected coaches and people that you might trust if you're less experienced to do it on your own. You just need to know how to take that and turn it into a template. So the example when I did this talk at Summit was, hey, like a margarita is what? It's 1.5 ounces of tequila, 1 ounce of Cointreau, some lime juice. You know, you might put more tequila in yours or whatever, but that's the basic recipe, right? If you make a spicy margarita, it's not suddenly 3 ounces of tequila and this other thing. You just change the type of tequila. So it's the same thing. You need to learn these recipes and then change them out for yourself so that you can say, hey, John's goal is hypertrophy. Like, hey, maybe Jay Ferrugia has a really good hypertrophy program for guys 35 and older, right? How about we look at that and just use that? It's not the coach's job or even the programmer's job to come up with something unique every single time. It's to put the right tool in front of the person that's training to make sure it's appropriate for their goal and appropriate for how they move and their lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so this isn't a programming podcast, so we won't go too deep into it. It's about making money in the fitness industry. But you named Mike Boyle, you named off a couple other people. Who are people? If someone coming from the CrossFit universe, they want to learn how to do this. Who should they be looking at? If
it's for strength training for adult groups, or you're going into personal training, I like Mike Boyle. If it's for hypertrophy, Jay Ferrugia or Pat Davidson is someone else that I would really like. If you're willing to nerd out and geek out on all the stuff and sort through all that stuff to get through, that would be very good. If you're looking for general adult populations, like the ones that I would assume most of the people that listen to this train, Alan and Rachel Cosgrove have fantastic materials in terms of their programming. Rachel just put out a book on strength training for women over 40 that we already start using and template out for women that we train that are in that demographic and looking for that. So those are all fantastic resources there.
Do you recommend getting like certifications and doing that type of stuff, or is it just like, buy the programs, figure it out on your own and get some feedback from someone who's doing this already?
we have a couple of our coaches going through it currently, but Luca's stuff on programming for semi-private training is very good. So if you're looking to learn it and you want to like, hey, how do I get nothing from this pitch, but he would be where I would go.
This probably isn't going out till Friday. You can still
I might negotiate my affiliate link, but it's yes and no. Don't let that be a limitation into you getting started. So to get started, it's like, hey, who do you respect and read and trust and know that are authorities in your realm of training? Use that to get started. And then yes, I think if you want to be treated as a professional moving forward, you should have your own knowledge to where you could start making some of your own programs and going from there. It's no different than the restaurant industry for me, right? When you're coming up, you're probably just a line chef where like you're just cutting onions and getting stuff ready for someone else. And then you're the sous chef where like you're putting everything together. Maybe every once in a while the head chef lets you make the appetizer, and then eventually you're head chef. And that's when you get to kind of, because now you know all the rules and how things go together, you can make your own menu. So I look at it no different in terms of how one would implement this. Is like start as a line cook. Hey, this guy said to do this and he's doing well. I'm going to implement that. And then you start playing the thing around with things a little bit, and then you move up from there.
Earlier, when you were talking about the group training example, you used the word personal training a couple times. Are you using that interchangeably with semi-private, or do you just advise people to start with personal and then transition to semi at some point?
So if you've never done it before, I think it would be fantastic just to go right into semi-private because you don't know any different. The struggle that people have with going from one-on-one training to semi-private is they're very used to over-delivering some of the soft skills of training, like, oh, I'm going to put the towel down on the bench for you. Let me run over and get your dumbbells. And if you have 4, there are some gyms that we coach that do this with 6 people per hour because they have more space. I think Pratt does something like they take like 8.
Yeah, something so insane.
You can't be running around grabbing people's dumbbells for that. You have to be kind of like the general of that session and be like, all right, John, we got deadlifts and presses, so you're going to be over here in this rack. We're going to start at 135, get your warm-up there, and then we have half kneeling press, so grab a 35, get a warm-up set there. Next person, and you're just kind of moving down the line, so you're just kind of overseeing everything at that point and giving each person one little additional cue to what they're doing. Now, client-facing, we just call it personal training. Everybody asks, like, how do you market it? It's like, we don't. It's just we market the results and that it's personal training and it's something individualized. So in a sales presentation, it's just language of, do you feel like it would be a good fit in our group program, or do you need something that's a little bit more customized to you? Right? So it's just the customized to you point is that first branch out. We still do some one-on-one training because we have some clients that really prefer it for one reason or the other. And then we just ask, like, the next division there is like, okay, do you feel like you need your own coach every single time? Or do you feel like as long as you had your own program to follow, you'd be okay if the coach was working with a few other people? Most people at that point in a sales conversation will just go into that. And then when they hear it's cheaper than spending $1,200 a month on training, they're like, oh, okay, cool. And I explained to them, whether you train with me one-on-one or semi-privately, your program is exactly the same. I don't say, well, now I have John one-on-one, so now we're going to do the real exercises. Now the real programming comes out. It's like, no, the program's a program, and now I'm going to stand back and coach whether I have 1 or 4.
And so how does that dictate the pricing? If you're explaining it to someone who maybe has group and personal training, where does semi line up? In that?
Our first goal for most people is to double what they're making per hour with personal training. So I don't care if it's on Broadway in New York City or in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. Usually just doubling your hourly rate, and then we used to do just 3 people per hour, so we would divide by 3, and that would give us your new rate. So 2/3.
So if you're charging $120 an hour for personal training, it's $40 a session is what you should price out your semi?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then you just kind of have to grind through it in the beginning, assuming that you're probably not going to have full utilization.
Yes. Yeah, that's the biggest question too.
Oh, no, I screwed that up.
Yeah, no, much more.
It would be 80 a session. 80 a session.
Yeah.
Okay.
80. I was like, as you kept going, I was like, no, wait a minute. I was like, no. Because as soon as you get the second client, you're ahead.
All right. That makes way more sense. I'm like, no,
it'd be a lot of grinding.
This sounds like a raw deal.
But the issue that everybody asks in the beginning is like, what do you do if only one person shows up? I'm like, deliver an awesome session so that they bring someone else. It's no different than when you opened your gym and you're like, well, what if no one shows up? Well, that would suck. But the goal is do an amazing job, show them that there's no different. And now we call them like anchor clients. So the way you're trying to build out this schedule is that if you came in tomorrow and you said, hey, Brian, I can do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m., perfect. Cool. I'm just going to lock you in at those times. If you ever need to change them, that's cool. Now, anytime I'm in another sales situation or someone's looking at the schedule, I know I have you Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. So, either my job if I'm doing the sales or our manager's job if she's doing the sales, she's going to look at the schedule and be like, she's going to try to help the coach out. She's going to be like, oh, I see that she has John Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9. And, if Sarah comes in for a consult and says, oh, I'm looking for the mornings, she knows her response is going to go, how's 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Because now, as soon as you get that second person, you're making more than you were. As soon as you get to the third person, you're making double. And then, obviously, if you're when we went to 4 people, we had 3 people per hour per coach up until COVID. And then, because we were rule followers, we couldn't have 2 coaches with 3 people when things started to open up. Then we went with 1 coach and 4 people because that could get us 1 more client in those hours. And then once things opened back up, no one complained about being with 4 people, so we just left it and left the price the same. So if you're new to it, start with 3 people and make sure that you're cool with the logistics of running around. But then after that, you can just add people and you don't decrease the price, just leave it the same, which is an effective rate increase essentially.
And I think that's an important distinction, what you said there. You play scheduling chess. So in the consultation, you lock in for certain time slots rather than just saying you can come at any time we offer this stuff. So you don't avoid it, but you try your hardest to not have single person sessions.
Yep.
And then this allows you to kind of stack the schedule as you get bigger and bigger.
Hey, gym owners, are you looking for a way to generate more leads, close more sales, and increase client retention? Introducing Kilo. We are a software company that gives gym owners the tools they need to increase revenue and run a successful gym. With Kilo, you get a beautifully designed website to capture more leads, an integrated marketing automation platform to increase sales, and our gym management software so you can add new client memberships, process payments, and organize your class schedule. If you're ready to upgrade your gym management software, book a call at usekilo.com.
Okay, cool. And you said you're still doing personal training. Are you still doing group? I know you had one. It's weird, right? Because last time we spoke, you had just opened your second location. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when you have a gym owner go from 1 to 2 locations, the first location shrinks, but usually the second location never takes off. It sounds like you had the opposite happen where your second location exploded and then your first location kind of shrank a little bit from the last time we spoke.
Yeah, we went for, so the second facility, for context, is in a super affluent area. And we went from 0 members. When we bought the gym, the guy who was running it is just a open access, $200, gets you in the door. And we came in, I had known some people in the area. And then when we came in, we went from 0 members to 150, which is normally like our goal to be around there in that blueprint within the first year. So we were at numbers, realized that we should have been charging way more in the beginning when we first opened, but we were just like, we'll just go with what we're charging now in this place because we were like, well, we'll just see what happens. And we would just go through it and be like, all right, we got to raise the rates again. And now we've fallen into a good sweet spot there. And then the other facility kind of backslid a little bit, and now it's kind of starting to go back up on the rebuild now. But yeah, that was the process for that. Is that we found out really quick. It halves your strengths and doubles your weaknesses. So,
but so your first facility, which is the one in Colson, you offer group and semi there, right? Mm-hmm. And then the Rumson one, you offer no group. This is the second one that's larger. You offer no group training, semi, and then you'll take a choice personal training client here or there if they're important.
Yeah,
if you got enough money, you can get Brian to travel to you. That's what I hear.
There are a couple people. Yeah, I work with some of our higher ticket clients that want to have a very specific goal, or for whatever reason they want to do one-on-one, and I think that their goal was interesting. But we actually do now offer group in the Rumson facility. It's a very limited option, and the reason is this. Where personal training studios struggle is, what are the clients supposed to do on the days that they don't come see you? So it's all well and good, even if you were charging $150 a session and you had someone training twice a week, that's fantastic. But if that person doesn't have anything to do the rest of the week, they're not going to get the results that they're looking for unless they're a super dedicated, like, they run marathons on their own and they're just coming to you to get some supplemental strength work. I'm talking about like a general fitness client who's looking for body comp, feel good type stuff. Twice a week isn't going to get it done. And then what you're in essence doing is telling them that they need another gym membership. I'm like, all right, well, come see me Monday and Wednesday, and then Friday, you could do this. I'll write you a workout and you could just, I guess do it over at Lifetime or do it wherever, and then they don't have an option. They're going somewhere else. So for us, it was always about, the classes were really there to offer an option for our clients to get their conditioning work in without having to go do that somewhere else. So that's how that started. And then more and more people were looking for that as a regular membership offer. And we were already offering the classes anyway. So we said like, hey, listen, this isn't our offer. And like, this might not get you exactly to where you want. But if you're just looking to take classes twice a week, and we just created the membership out of that, that's $200 a month. And then they can just come in and take classes.
So let me make sure I understand this.
Sure.
So if you're semi-private, you do your program.
Mm-hmm.
And then the group classes, they aren't like strength training. It's like conditioning work. That's it. So you do that in addition to your whatever. So you come in 2-3 times a week for strength work, and then you could come another 2 for conditioning if you want to do that, basically.
Yeah, that's where it gets confusing, because in the Colts Neck facility, we do have a standalone group program that has strength training classes, because that's how we originally opened. So we do have a decent amount of members that do that as their membership option. So they'll take 2 strength classes a week and then 2 conditioning classes a week. That's their 4 days a week. For our members that are doing a customized or some sort of personal training, they might do 2 or 3 of their strength training sessions with a coach, and then they pop into one of those classes. It's included in their membership to kind of augment what they're doing.
Sounds pretty hard. This doesn't sound like something that's easily copied here.
It's really, I think maybe I'm not doing a great job at explaining it, but it's really not that bad. Most of our, like I said, if you could think of it this way, our most common membership is 2 semi-private sessions a week, and then those clients will come in and take 2 classes on their own.
Okay.
That's their 4 visits.
All right. So if you were rebuilding, would you rebuild more like Colts Neck or Rumson?
Rumson. Our shift now in our marketing and our messaging and everything that we're doing is trying to go, it doesn't mean we're going to get rid of that other thing. Like, we'll keep it there, but I would build it more like Rumson, where the main focus is on individualization and strength training. Most of the group models that are out there right now are very mixed modality. Like, even if they might have components of strength training in them, but you're not gonna necessarily, and if they're not CrossFit, because CrossFit certainly does, but if they're not CrossFit, there's really not any sort of messaging out there about coming in and training for strength training. And strength training doesn't mean 25-pound dumbbells for 50 reps, right? It has to be like, hey, we're going to actually try to deadlift for 3 to 5 reps. I would do it more along the lines of what Trink is doing and looking like that, where there's actually a component of strength training, but not in that group model. That's all. So yes, strength training is our main focus, and focusing on that individualization.
And let's talk about how you position yourself, because that's something we speak on a lot on this show. You have this weird mix where your bread and butter client seems like a mom, but you work with a lot of high school athletes in the area. So how'd you pull that off?
Well, those moms have kids. So yes, our general avatar is a general fitness client looking to come in and for body comp related goals. I got initially into working with some high school athletes in the area that train for wrestling specifically, due to the fact when I first started this, before I even owned a gym, one of my clients, his son wrestled for CBA and was looking to do some strength training before they had a formal strength and conditioning program at their school. And I worked with him and one of his friends, and they both did really well and got some great results. And then it kind of spawned from there. Like, where we're sitting right now is probably, it's the biggest hotbed of wrestling in New Jersey. And then New Jersey itself is, one of the top 2 states for wrestling in the country, outside of like here in California, Iowa, things like that, Pennsylvania. So wrestling happens to be a super niche sport in our area, and that's kind of where I carved out working with those guys.
So you basically cornered wrestling. Yeah,
on an individual standpoint. I was very lucky that I never ran it in big groups with people. I think if you're going to have what's his name from Stone Fit on. He will have a younger group of kids that he works with wrestling. Mine were very much like, I've been very lucky to have, we have a kid at Harvard, an All-American from Michigan and Northwestern, kids at American University. We've had, a number of people go on to college to do really, really great things in wrestling. So it was more on an individual basis. I never opened it up because my schedule was nuts. I never wanted to have to. And one of the things I enjoy the least is like, if you're going to do a kids program, you have to have availability at a lot of times because kids' schedules are crazy.
It sounds so shitty to
I was like, because you would organize it, you put all this work in, you'd be like, okay, guys, 3:00, right? And then 2:30, the phone would ring and like, oh, Johnny's got a test. Can he come in at 4? And now like you based your pricing, your time, everything off of like all these guys were going to come at this time. And then like you have one kid who needs to come in at 8:00 at night. And it's like, you realize like I made $10 like for that, which is in the beginning when I was starting my business, I didn't care because I was there from 5 a.m. till 7:00 at night anyway. So like if they needed to change their schedule, it was no big deal. Oh, yeah, sure. Come at 7. I'll be here anyway. What does it matter? But then as things grew and I couldn't really manage it anymore, it became like if someone was referred to me, I would see if it was a good fit. We'd go over their schedule with them and their parents. If we can make the schedule work, then I would take them.
So are you pricing that like a normal membership now, or how are you handling that?
Yeah, that was the biggest mistake that I made in the beginning, is that I priced it as if I was going to have these groups every hour, and that wasn't happening. So at the end of the quarter, I'd sit back and look at some numbers, and I'm like, I'm charging these guys like $5 a session to get here because it was based on if they were going to come, 5 days a week, and we were going to have 3 groups, and like that never amounted to anything. Like you said, our bread and butter was general fitness clients, and there's plenty of options in our area for facilities that kill it with youth strength and conditioning. And if they're like a field athlete, I refer them to one of those facilities. If they're wrestling, then I'm excited to work with them. But if it's like soccer, football, anything like that, we'll usually refer them out.
Yeah, so it's absolutely, this area is hyper competitive for them. It's like one of the best areas for high school, like actually just like athletic training. Like we've had 2 or 3 people on the show just from like a 45-minute radius of where we are right now. So, all right. So your advice is treat it like your normal membership. Don't go out of your way to, make these special off the table deals. You've been in here for a while. When did you start as like a personal trainer? You're like you're a lifer, right?
Lifer.
We're like what?
I've been coaching
15, 20 years in?
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I graduated college, I was debating going to physical therapy school. I did a brief internship, and I was like, I don't want to work with people that are hurt all the time. And it just wasn't, I don't know, I didn't get good vibes from it. And at the same time, I was super lucky. My uncle was one of the first writers. This is actually how I got introduced to Coop. My uncle was one of the first writers for EliteFTS.com. And at the time...
Nepotism.
What's that?
Nepotism.
Yeah, I don't even think Chris remembered that he wrote articles for that. I had to tell him, and I think he was like, oh yeah, I think I remember some of those articles. It was about like not hanging like a Metallica flag in his gym or something. But yeah, so there were him and Alan Cosgrove were 2 writers on the site at the time. And when I was first doing it, I was doing personal training to make some extra money. And then as things started to take off and I started to look at these other businesses, Eric Cressy wrote for the site at the time. Martin Rooney was a writer for the site at the time, also another Jersey guy. Bill Parisi was a writer for the site at the time, another New Jersey guy. So I was like, man, these guys, they seem like they're doing well. So I got more and more interested in it and learned from some of those guys early on in my career just as an employee. And so when people ask like when I switched to semi-private training, it's like this is all I ever did, right? I initially, when I got into a facility, I asked the owner, I'm like, hey, would you care if I trained like 2 or 3 people at a time? And he was like, oh, what do I care? Like do whatever, do whatever. And I was like, all right, give me a certain amount of time to try and work on it. And then I was in Atlantic Highlands, which is like a town or 2 over from here, and built that up to a spot where we were doing like $50,000 a month in a like an 1,100 square foot like small place. Tried to negotiate some equity there. It didn't work out. At the same time, the space in Colts Neck opened, and then I opened for myself over there.
And so, what other kind of mistakes have you made along the way that you would coach someone who's maybe 5 to 10 years earlier than you in the journey not to make? We talked about pricing and holding strong there. What are some other big ones?
I think I've been through a lot of different business coaching courses, things like that. And this is going to be individual. This is for me, and I'm sure if someone else is listening that finds themselves in the same bucket, don't remove yourself from the stuff that you actually really, really enjoy doing just because someone else said that should be the goal. Right. I still, like you asked earlier, like, oh, are you still doing some coaching? And I do because I enjoy it. And I feel like it keeps me in the loop of what's going on at the facilities. And I think a lot of times people remove themselves. I know I did because I was like, oh, these guys said that this is what the goal is. And then I would wake up and be like, well, what the hell am I doing today? And it's hard to find motivation. So I'm not coaching, 60 hours a week anymore, but I keep enough of a book to where it keeps me interested in what I'm doing. And I feel like I'm involved with that. So that would be one. Two is make sure that you have a very good operating agreement if you're taking on partners early in your business. I had a partner that I originally opened up my first facility with that I ended up having to, we weren't even making any money, but quote unquote buy out after, like, when we just got to the level where we were starting to pay ourselves. He decided him and his family wanted to move to Florida, and no hard feelings, like, nice guy and everything. It was just very, really bad timing. And we really didn't have anything in place, so everything was kind of like self-negotiated at that point. So those are the things that I would say. If I had had something stronger, that would have saved me not a ton of money, because it was just kind of like, here you go, let's just move on so we can keep this thing going. But those would be the two things: is keep yourself involved in the aspects that you enjoy and make sure that you're clear on what those are. If you hate marketing, then don't try to become a marketing expert. You have to learn enough, but there's people out there that you can work with that can help you. But make sure that you're doing the things that you actually enjoy doing.
But you have a partner now. So how did you find your existing partner, and how did, what's the split of work? We don't need to go into the exact details of how, is it like you looked for someone who was strong where you were weak? Like, how did you not screw this one up?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, so Adam's my business partner now. He, oddly enough, all the way back when I was starting in one of my first jobs, I trained his brother and a couple other members of his family. So I had met him that way. And then he became a coach at our gym, switching from a family business. His dad owned like a pretty successful like tool business. They provided tools for big, large companies across the world, whatever. So anyway, it became apparent pretty early when he was there that he was better suited for operational type tasks in the business, and not that he wasn't in coaching, but that was his strong suit and he enjoyed it. And that's the stuff that I absolutely don't enjoy doing at all.
The ops.
Yeah, I don't necessarily enjoy those things. I like training. Like, I think in some way or another, I'll be doing some sort of coaching for a long time. I enjoy doing that. I understand that there's other aspects of the business that require attention if you want to be able to keep coaching for a long time. But as he moved into kind of a manager role, kind of into the business, he was taking on more and more day-to-day stuff, things that I didn't even know he was doing or asking him to do. He was kind of picking up, and the opportunity for him to buy in really came when the Rumson facility came up for sale. That's how that came up as a conversation. I own 75% of Aspire. He owns 25%. And then we are 50-50 in our real estate. So that's our partnership right now. So in terms of making sure that the product that we put out, in terms of what we do for coaching, classes, training, that's my responsibility. In terms of handling day-to-day ops, stuff like that, that falls more under Adam's responsibility.
And we talked about that had just happened, or was like you were about to sign. So you bought your building. It was 1.2 million.
Yeah, 1.1. Yep.
And SBA or no SBA?
SBA.
Sure.
Yeah.
You went SBA for part of it, and then you had a secondary lender who was non-SBA.
Correct.
Okay.
That was the part that took the longest.
Yeah, because this was going on during COVID, and this is for the listener. This is the second location, the one that does better. So now that we are a year in, how are we doing?
Good, man. I mean, payments are fine. This was the first year having everything settled that we were able to take some of the depreciation and stuff into our taxes. So that was a huge benefit. And I'm still not an expert on any of those things. Like, I I go through it with our accountant and our lawyer, trust those guys that are and and people like yourself going through that. But that was a huge game changer for us. And
it shocks you the first time, right? Like,
yeah. I was like,
how much you say.
That big of a deal, exactly.
Especially here.
And that's why, like, I had listened to other things that you put out before, and you were saying, like, hey, if I was to do this again, I would try to find a building that I could purchase and run it. And then I was like, the hell does that matter? I was like, and now I'm like, oh, it matters if you can swing it. And again, for reference, if people knew, like, hey, it's a 3,000 square foot building and you paid $1.1 million for it, like the town that it's in, if I could right now, if I could find the same space or bigger, I would rent a space to put our gym in. Because to your point earlier, we could run a really, really good athlete program in our gym. We just don't have the space for it. So I'm not going to do it if we can't do it right, because then it's just going to cause problems. But if a 5,000, 6,000 square foot facility came up in the town that we're in, I would go rent that and then keep the building that I own and rent it out to a restaurant because it's right on the main street. All the other high profile restaurants in town are on that street. So I think that would be successful as well. But I don't see that opportunity coming up anytime soon.
So to be clear, I was right.
You were right. Yes. Correct.
Okay, cool.
Main point.
All right. And so anything that you've learned from that we need to update versus last time? If you haven't, go listen to the last podcast I did with Brian. We broke down the entire process, how the loans went, how that process went, how we found the building. That breaks that down in full detail. But now that you're a year in, you talked about the tax benefit, which is great because you get to write off a little bit of the building every year against your income. So if you have a cash generative facility, it's super beneficial to own the real estate. Then also the interest you pay on that, that's an expense on the P&L, which shelters you a little bit more. Anything else?
The hardest part for us is that even though we had been in business with good books and everything in our other facility for 7 years up until that point, the hardest part is that we weren't going to get credit for being an owner-occupied building because we weren't there yet and our business was in another location. So that was a huge holdup for us in getting things approved, not necessarily by the SBA, but when we were shopping out basically that other portion of the loan gets shopped out to everywhere, and we went through two different banks and got like to the final step, and then things would get pulled. Meanwhile, we just saw interest rates going like this, in that time period. But the eye opener for me was getting in with the SBA was great because we have a project that we might need to work on in one of the facilities, and now that we have that direct contact there, like we have access to Adam would know the number enough. I'm going to say a ton of cash if we need it, as long as it's a qualified expense.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. In terms of like now that we're in and under that program, that had we never done that, we would have never, I don't think I would have ever looked. It would have been just something like, oh, we're going to have to look about this another way. So that was a huge benefit to doing that. So if you're in a situation like that where that's a possibility, listen, I took on someone who became an investor in the business and then also a 50-50 partner in the real estate stuff to make that happen. And it's already well paid back itself. So if you're in a situation like that and my advice, find a way to make the numbers work because it's a huge benefit if you can make it work. It's always better to have a percentage of something than 100% of nothing.
And if you want more insight into that, we've done a podcast with the head of gym lending for the largest SBA lender, Angelo Medici. You can go look at that. And I've written extensively about it. You can just go to gymworld.wtf and search SBA. And a lot of my previous posts will show up, and that will help you how to navigate that process. Because there's also some benefits that we didn't talk about on this show that you can put way less money down and still buy a building. And another one worth checking out is the one we did with Stu Brower, where we talk about how he managed to retire himself on the back of a building that he bought. So definitely recommended listening for every single gym owner who is currently renting their facility and maybe in a position in the next 2 to 3 years to buy their own. So we talked about what you do. We talked about the programming. We talked about mistakes you made. We talked about self-improvement. We talked about the real estate. What other money-making tips you got?
Be really good at what you do, man. I think the number one thing that I see sometimes when people are looking for advice is that there are plenty of coaching mechanisms that tell you how to sell your sauce, what label to put on your sauce, how to make sure people see your sauce and do all these things. But a lot of times people aren't sure if their sauce sucks. So what I mean by that is that if there's a lot of, I would argue there's a lot more people that squeak by with things because they can learn business methods and they can learn all these things. You can send all the thank you letters out, but at the end of the day, if you're not getting results with people, you're not going to be able to grow your business. The people that I see grow and flourish a ton when they either take on mentorship or they go into some sort of business coaching are the people that they are really, really good at what they do, but don't have the business background on how to implement these things. So when they do that, things grow really, really quick. But every once in a while, you see people that, they're looking for business coaching to be this like pill that they take and then suddenly tomorrow everything's going to improve, and that just simply isn't the case. So just make sure that you're very, very good at what you do, and if you're doing that, it's much easier to make money if you're good at what you're doing than if you're not. I know that sounds like a silly thing to say, but I really feel like right now, especially from ads I see being pitched on Instagram and Facebook for things that are being sold, there's plenty of people that want to teach you how to make more money, and not enough people learning how to actually be really good at what they do.
I don't want to teach you how to make more money. I just want to do it for you. So we don't touch your sauce. Mm-hmm. If you just need someone to bottle it, you go to usekilo.com.
That's right.
And we're going to make you a nice website. We're going to do some marketing automation. We're going to take over your gym management. We're going to give you nice reports. And you want to increase the heat of that hot sauce, that's fine. We'll make that look really good for you. But I just want to be clear. You go to usekilo.com, you book a call, and let us bottle your sauce. We got all kinds of different bottles. We actually bottle Brian's sauce, and it does fantastic.
Sure does.
So one thing before we wrap up here. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've noticed is most gym owners are unaware that their sauce sucks. So I've been to a lot of gyms where I've spoken with the owner that they thought they were the hottest thing since sliced bread, but it was trash. So, how do you become self-aware? How do you find that information out, right? Like unless you're going to a ton of other gyms, you don't know.
You should be getting referrals. If you're not getting client referrals I don't have a specific number, like you should be getting 1.37 referrals per person. But if you don't have a steady flow of people referring others that they know and love to work with you, then something's probably up, right? That can be for your facility as a whole, or that could be for you if you were an independent contractor working as a coach somewhere. Now, sometimes it could be as simple as you need to get better at asking, but in general, if you're doing a very, very good job, people should be excited to send, like if I go to a really good restaurant, I'm excited, like I'd be excited to tell you to go there, right? Because I'd be like, man, like I like John, I like this restaurant, I think John would like it here, I'm going to tell him, right? So if that's not happening, then I think that would be, if I had to look for one indicator, that's where I would look and be like, hey, how many people have referred me anybody in the last 3 months? If it's 0, I need to think, have I had any conversations asking, or have I made it easy? And then if I haven't, start. But then if not, I need to really analyze, like, am I really providing what I think I'm providing? So that would be the biggest one, is, are you getting client referrals?
And we're going out on that because that is excellent advice, and I'm getting hungry for lunch. Gym World, that is all we have this week. It is not easy or cheap to coordinate a weekly show where we bring you the industry's best secrets for free. So be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you got some value out of this. And if you want to reach Brian, where do they go to find you, Brian?
You can email me. It's just brian@aspirefitnessnj.com if you have a direct question, or it's just brianbotfitness on Instagram.
And if you want me to love you forever, you just go to usekilo.com and you book yourself a call with one of the fine people on our sales team. That is it. Until next week, Gym World, I love you. Goodbye.